Black Veil Brides 4, Black Veil Brides' self-titled album which took quite the turn from the band's previous two. This record seems to be very polarizing among the fanbase, so I'm excited to hopefully see a lot of your differing opinions on it. I personally love BVB 4, I think it's underrated and has a lot of great songs. These are all my opinions, and as always, you're welcome to disagree with me and leave your own ranking in the comments. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. Enjoy. I'm probably gonna catch some heat for this, but Walk Away is my least favorite Black Veil Brides song. I know a lot of people really love it, but I just never understood all the hype. I'll admit there are some nice parts and the lyrics are good, but most of the track is just too slow and boring for me. Additionally, many of the vocal harmonies sound straight up bad and forced, even more so than We Stitch. At the end of the day, it comes down to me being biased against this slow, heavily harmonized style. It doesn't sound good to my ears, and unfortunately I have to put Walk Away at the bottom of this ranking. For being Black Veil Bride's worst song, it's honestly pretty decent. Most bands have much lower points than this, so it's still pretty impressive. I rarely listen to this track, but I'm looking through the lyrics right now, and if I'm being honest, this is definitely one of the band's better pieces lyrically. It's a shame they couldn't have made it sound better. I will give a shout out to the guitar solos and the guitar in the final minute, though. Those parts actually sound nice. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but Walk Away is my least favorite Black Veil Bride song, I'm sorry to say. Last Rites is an odd case where it's just wrong. The entire thing is decent. Like, the quality is really consistent and there are no bad parts, but that also means that there are no really good parts. I feel like there's a lot of empty space in Last Rites, and the lyrics are fine, I guess, nothing special. Literally all the vocal melodies are a bit odd too. I don't know what it is, but Last Rites just sounds off somehow, like they made a perfectly good song and then changed every few notes one step and now it sounds bad. If I had to choose a favorite part, I would probably say the outro, because that's the only clip that caught my attention at all. Sorry I don't have much to say, but Last Rites is just a decent song. Pretty forgettable, and I see why no one talks about it. World of Sacrifice is a song that has fallen down my ranking over time, and for one reason. The chorus really isn't that good. When I first listened to this album, I probably would have had this at like 7 or 8, but over time the chorus wrecks the replay value and knocks this track down to number 10. I give credit where credit is due though. The intro riff is one of my favorite riffs on the record. If I was a Black Veil Brides fan in 2014 when this came out, I would have heard the intro and the verse and been super excited for the rest of the song, but unfortunately, that's basically it. The intro is great. The verses are some of the better ones in the album, and the pre-chorus feels like it should lead to something much better than this underwhelming chorus. Just like with Walk Away, this is one of the better lyrical pieces on the record. The lyrics in the chorus are really nice, and again, I just wish they made a better sound to go along with that. The vocal harmonies in the song are much better than Walk Away too. They actually sound good, but, the chorus still sucks. The bridge as well is such a letdown. No work went into the lyrics, and the only positive thing is that I guess the bass guitar is kinda nice on that part. Just the whole second half of the track is mediocre at best, which is especially disappointing following that mostly awesome first half. The riff and verses showed so much potential, the of course amazing guitar and drum work, nice little screaming accents. Those things deserve a better chorus, and I'm just so sad it goes like this. This is one of those what-if songs that deserved a partial overhaul, and I'm sorry to those who love it, but I'm sacrificing World of Sacrifice to number 10. My enjoyment of Goodbye Agony has fluctuated a lot over time. There are some parts I really like, and then some I really don't. The most egregious issue is the vocal harmonies in the chorus, which more or less ruin that part of the song. I think if they removed or maybe replaced some of the notes in the harmonies, Goodbye Agony could be much better, but nope, it's the same problem as Walk Away. But other than that, this is a very nice addition to this album. Lyrically, it's one of my favorites on here, and I think the sound complements the message perfectly, except for the harmonies, of course. The combination of the acoustic guitar and soft piano in the verses emulates this hopeless atmosphere, like you don't know which way to go. The entrance of the heavier guitar and drums in the pre-chorus is a nice transition into the chorus. Again, it's such a shame that these vocal harmonies exist, because otherwise the chorus is really good. The riff in the background holds the somber atmosphere steady, while still leaving plenty of room for the vocals. The second verse is noticeably better than the first, incorporating more drums and electric guitar. I love the little guitar lick in transition to the second chorus as well. My personal favorite part of the track, and this will be no surprise if you watch my other Black Veil videos, is the bridge. Now, I've said plenty of things about the vocal section of this band's bridges. They tend to not be very great, and in most cases just forgettable. But Goodbye Agony is not one of those cases. I like how this part continues the energy from the chorus while adding its own flair in the guitar solo. Also, let me just take a second to talk about the lyrics, starting in the chorus. Are the lyrics the deepest thing in the world? Definitely not. But even then, they're very to the point and I relate to them heavily, which gives me a bias. The bridge's lyrics too are really good. I appreciate that they added the emphasis on the aspect of forgiving those who brought you pain. A lot of songs are overly vengeful, but this one puts a softer spin on that, which I like. Back to the musical components, it's hard to notice, but the bass guitar in the last chorus is ever so slightly louder than in the previous ones, and even though I don't like the harmonies, they do well in providing a bit of extra intensity to this final chorus. And then the track ends with a callback to the intro riff and a final goodbye to this agony. I think structurally and lyrically, this is a really good song. The sound is pretty nice too, by no means a standout in that department, but all the different elements together bring Goodbye Agony up to number 9. There was a time when I considered this to be the second worst track on the record, but I'm satisfied with putting it here now. This album was penultimate track, The Shattered God. The Shattered God has a very odd sound that shouldn't work, but does. Somehow the unorthodox vocal melodies and harmonies fit extremely well with the instrumentals and lyrics. I will acknowledge that this is one of the weaker tracks vocally, but there's still a really good song here. This is quite clearly a guitar and vocals focused track that makes use of climactic vocal melodies and skillful guitar riffs. Nearly anywhere you look in the runtime, you can hear some awesome guitar playing in the background, which definitely makes up for the at times lackluster vocals. So, The Shattered God starts off with an amazing intro, which is one of my absolute favorites on the album. The guitar is, of course, incredible, and CC complements it with some lightning-fast drumming. After that, however, the quality takes a huge dip in the verses. The section feels pretty empty. A lot of the vocal harmonies are questionable and just very forgettable overall. That's not a huge problem, though, because the pre-chorus take things up several notches. The harmonies vastly improve, and the higher-pitched guitars come in to prepare the listener for the audio-effective chorus. Now, I do really love the lyrics of this chorus, and the whole song for that matter, but the melody is kind of weird. I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but it's just strange. I think what saves this part is the guitar, though. There's always something cool going on with that, and also the drums here are great. I think despite its awkwardness, the melody accomplishes this larger-than-life grand atmosphere very well. Onto the bridge, it's kinda, just forgettable. Like, not bad, but a little boring at times, and the lack of a real guitar solo hurts it a bit. I don't think every song has to have a solo, but I feel like this track deserved and would have worked with one. The beginning of the bridge feels underdeveloped and boring, and the vocal section as well doesn't live up to its full potential in my opinion. But now we can talk about my personal favorite part of The Shattered God, which is the outro, and by that I mostly mean the last 22 seconds. I know I was complaining just now about the bridge not having a solo, but I suppose I can't have it both ways. This solo in the outro is amazing, and I'm so glad they ended the track like this instead of an alternative. The guitar harmonies are insane, and I enjoy the callback to the intro. Overall, I do really like The Shattered God. There's a lot of great guitar and drum stuff, and its placement as the second to last track is perfect. This is the perfect song to lead into Crown of Thorns, and it's essential to the feel of the record. Drag Me to the Grave is in many ways a worse version of Heart of Fire. Sorry, I know I'm starting this off very harsh, but once I realized it, I couldn't unhear it. Drag Me to the Grave is the third to last track in order right before The Shattered God, and I like how it brought the sound out from the depths of Walk Away into a more energetic and hard-rocking style. I generally don't love when songs fill up a huge amount of time with O's, and I still don't, but I don't mind it too much here. The O's fit well with the guitar in those sections, and they set the tone for the rest of the track. Unlike The Shattered God, Drag Me to the Grave uses a more lighthearted sound which, along with the catchy melodies, creates one of the most fun songs on this album. The verses are a step up from the previous entry as well, improving the guitars and having a much better melody. The chorus is probably my favorite part. I honestly like every section, but the chorus is just catchy and I like the guitars. The lyrics are very basic and kind of nothing, but honestly, I don't expect anything crazy out of Black Veil to begin with most of the time. I need to mention the second pre-chorus really quick. I like the guitar in the background. That's it. Okay, back to the rest of the song now. The bridge is kinda good. Just kinda good. I used to enjoy it more, but over time it's lost a little bit of that replay value for me. Not a huge loss, but the guitar solo is a bit underwhelming, and while it does sound nice, I wish there were more to this bridge before immediately thrusting you back into the chorus. I really like the beginning of the last chorus though. I like how it starts with calmer instrumentals which lead up to the climax. The vocal harmonies in this chorus are again a bit strange, but they work fine and it's still catchy, so I don't care. Another one of my favorite parts is the outro. I love the guitar behind the O's and the bass rocks. I don't really have much else to say. I don't exactly love such frequent use of the O's and the titular line, but the song still sounds really good and it's placed well within the record. Devil in the Mirror used to be at like number 4, but it slowly slid down the ranking a bit over time. Of course it's still at number 6, and I don't see it moving down any further in the future. Devil in the Mirror sonically is very similar to The Shattered God. I imagine it as sort of what Shattered God would have been if they put a solo in the bridge, and it works pretty well. The structures of each are pretty similar except for the intro. Devil in the Mirror's verses are unfortunately very forgettable and a bit weird. The verses, like many of the ones on this album, feel forced and the melody feels off. Other than that though, this is a great song that makes amazing use of guitar and drums. The vocals and harmonies can be a bit questionable at times, but still not nearly as egregious as Goodbye Agony. The higher notes in the chorus sound a bit strained, which was also an issue in The Shattered God, but it isn't a huge deal, just a slight negative. While the lyrics for most of the track are definitely not the deepest thing in the world, I still enjoy them in the pre-chorus and chorus. The admittedly basic pre-chorus of "I can't take it anymore, every day feels like a war" is the perfect setup for the grandiose chorus and its literally self-reflective message. The titular lyric of "The Devil in the Mirror" is a great illustration of what this section is describing. I imagine looking into a mirror and seeing the devil screaming insults at me, to which I'd vow to never let him win. I especially love the addition of the line, "Even if I start to fall, I swear to you I'll rise again." That shows that it's okay to fall down sometimes as long as you come back stronger. After the second chorus is the guitar solo, which in my opinion is one of the better ones on the record. I like CeCe's fast-paced drumming to go along with the bass riff from the intro. I really like the melody of the solo, and it's definitely my favorite part of this song. Then to finish off the bridge is a repetition of the pre-chorus, which is a nice touch. The outro is basically just the intro, which is a bit disappointing, but we got an amazing outro in The Shattered God, so I can't really complain. Devil in the Mirror is a great track overall. That's all I really have to say about it. People really love Sons of Night, and for good reason. It's one of, if not the coolest sounding track from this album, and it's so epic, y'all. I imagine most of you have heard it, but if you haven't, then I highly recommend checking it out. One of my favorite guitar songs Black Veil has ever done in terms of riff and the solo. The drums are also slamming down for the majority of the runtime, which goes great with the nearly non-stop energy. I appreciate the vocal harmonies being turned down a notch compared to Goodbye Agony, and the vocals as a whole were done very well. Andy emulates the epic and adventurous atmosphere effectively in his singing, and the melodies fit perfectly. The verses are some of my favorite in Black Veil Bride's discography, mostly because of the guitar, but everything else is great too. The pre-chorus is, again, really nice. I just realized this, but this album has a lot of amazing pre-choruses, so I guess that's cool. The build-up aspect of the pre-chorus amplifies the listening experience of the chorus, which is also one of my favorites sonically. The entire song is really just based on sound, because the lyrics, I don't even know what they mean. I mean, sure, they sound really cool and they seem to fit the atmosphere well, but there is no meaning. If you're an avid fan, you may know that Andy admitted that even he doesn't know what the song is about. I think it's like a The Vengeance situation where the track was built off of a guitar riff and the lyrics were added later. But here it was done much more drunkenly, I would assume. Either way though, I'm not here to dog on the lyrics because at least they sound epic. Back to the sound, the post-chorus is another one of my favorite parts. The second one, especially with the O's, is so epic. The choral nature of the O's meshes flawlessly with the guitar riff in this section, and all of that is more than enough to culminate into the guitar solo. Again, an amazing solo that sends the listener into an infernal war scene much like Bowser's Castle in my eyes. If I said everything I wanted to say about this solo, we'd be here all day, so I'll finish it off with this. Sons of Night is the perfect bonus track. Its lyrical questionability gives it the right excuse to be left off the main album, and I think its unknownness makes it that little bit more special for those of us who love it. This is probably the heaviest song on this album, and it fills those shoes amazingly. From the first second to the last, Stolen Omen packs a vengeful punch sure to bring out anyone's rebellious side. With a combination of addicting riffs, heavy drum work, and guttural screaming, Stolen Omen has solidified its place as one of Black Veil Bride's most underrated pieces. I mean, just look at the intro. Right off the bat, you can hear stark contrast to the surrounding tracks on the album. The drums are much heavier, the riffs have this sinister energy, and you can tell the boys at Black Veil Brides were out for blood with this one. I absolutely love the intro, without a doubt one of the best on the record. You'd think that the first verse would have a hard time following that up, but what do you know, it gets even better. The opening line leaves no wonder as to what the song is about. People that live life with rose-colored glasses, choosing to ignore hardship by means of pleasure-seeking or even religion. Not even 15 seconds into the verse, they're screaming, which is a nice refresher after last rites. It's pretty hard to hear what Andy's saying in this part, but once you look at the lyrics, the message becomes clear. He's telling the listener that Black Veil Brides will always be sort of a safe place for those trying to escape the bounds of whatever harmful society or religion they're in. The chorus is probably my favorite part of the song. Its slightly unorthodox melody is made powerful by the guitars and drums. I love all the lyrics here, but especially the titular line, "They live for a stolen omen," which I'm guessing refers to the safety blanket that some people use to escape the pain of reality like a religion or something else. Now, obviously, as a religious person, I have nothing against religion as a whole, but I'll admit there are many negative aspects of probably all religious groups that warrant these types of songs. Andy was raised in the Catholic Church and has since left it, so it's pretty easy to see where the inspiration for these lyrics came from. The second verse is the better of the two, mostly because it's pretty much just screaming. The part where the guitars get quieter while Andy says, "I see this, I know pain, let's see you try," and then immediately back into heavier instrumentals is super satisfying to listen to. The lyrics here are great as well. It's basically saying that no one can fight the hate on their own, and that Black Veil will be their sanctuary through it all. After the second chorus is the bridge, which is another really great section. The guitar solo itself isn't incredible, but the intro riff in the background keeps the energy going nicely to prepare for the transition back into the final chorus. Andy singing, then screaming, "Stand up now and show us what you live for," is one of the best and most epic moments of the album. The guitar lick leading into the last chorus is a great touch, and then of course the final chorus, my favorite part of the track. The outro ends off the song nicely as well with a long scream. I know I gave this and Devil in the Mirror the same rating, but they were basically opposite ends of that category. I just need to emphasize that Stolen Omen is definitely above Devil in the Mirror, and even Sons of Night, and it's not extremely close. This is the first song in this video that'll be featured on my top 20 Black Veil Bride songs video that should come out within the next couple months. But yeah, Stolen Omen is super underrated, and it could be a great spokesperson for this album. Finally, getting into the S tier, the elites, we have Heart of Fire. This is the first track on the record and is one of the most popular along with Goodbye Agony. I think this was the perfect way to introduce the album and the perfect first single to be released. If I was a Black Veil fan in 2014, I'd be ecstatic to hear this after Wretched and Divine. This is the most catchy song on this record, as well as the best execution of the melodic hard rock style that was attempted a few more times but never truly replicated. For example, Drag Me to the Grave. The intro alone brings the energy and is super memorable. It leads in well to the first verse, which is definitely the weakest part, but still satisfactory. Then yet another great pre-chorus. Here the energy builds up even further with the faint choir in the background and masterful drum work from CC. The chorus is, well, obviously the catchiest thing in this entire album. There's something about the background, guitar, and steady beat that makes this chorus great. Add to that the addicting melody and surprisingly good vocal harmonies, and you have this masterpiece. I'm probably going to use this word about 1,000 more times, but it's just so catchy. Basically the Fallen Angels of BVB4 in that respect. The harmonies, like I mentioned, are executed much better than all the previous entries do, and that's crucial for the epicness of the song. But then comes my favorite part of the whole track, the bridge. Whether it's the masterful vocal choirs, addicting guitar riffs, or amazing solo, this bridge has it all, at least sonically since there are no lyrics. With absolutely zero warning, the chorus ends off with Andy screaming, "Let's burn it down," in one of the most relieving moments for any Black Veil fan in 2014. Each album before this one had used progressively less screaming, so hearing that scream was probably a very happy moment for many fans when this single was released. I also really like the O's despite my frequent gripes with their usage in music. They contribute nicely to the epic atmosphere. Of course I have to talk about the solo though. This is my favorite solo on the record for many reasons. 1, the melody is super sick and the shredding is mwah. 2, it very effectively keeps the energy the rest of the song holds, and 3, the background stuff. By that I mean the other guitar and of course the O's. The last chorus is climactic as ever, and the outro returns to the intro in a way which I love to see. The only issue is that there's not really anything going on with the lyrics, but if I'm being honest, I don't expect too much from Black Veil in that department most of the time. It's really not a huge negative though, since the lyrics sound cool, just like with Sons of Night. Heart of Fire is the perfect opener for this album. It's catchy, has screaming, great guitar and drum work, nice vocal harmonies, and most importantly, that essential Black Veil Bride's energy. A lot of people may think that the most important part of an album is the beginning, but I happen to disagree in this case. So for my number 2 spot, let's take a journey to the end. I'm sorry, I made that way more cryptic than it had to be. But yeah, Crown of Thorns, the closer, is my number 2. It took me a while to really appreciate the nuances and genius of this song, but after listening to this album probably over 30 times, I can confidently say that Crown of Thorns is one of the best closing tracks I've heard of the 2010s. I'll get to why in a second, but first let's go through this one. So it starts out with, of course, that iconic intro. The intro is as good as it is because of another reason, which, again, I'll get to in a minute. I'll come back to all this, just bear with me. Crown of Thorns verses are pretty good. They're by no means standouts, but definitely on the better side of this record, not a super high bar, mind you. This is where the lyrical mastery begins, I would argue. To me, the first verse paints a picture of a group of people in a period of great hardship, whether that's financial, emotional, whatever. The lines, "All that's left are scripture songs, living with the pieces of my memories," describe how these people are basically running on fumes. They have nothing left besides their memories and each other. The next lines, "I'll guard all the dying and kill all abandoned hope," look like the singer's pledge to protect the other people. The pre-chorus musically is really effective. It builds up to the chorus efficiently with the additions of the choir singing in the background and more guitar coming in. The chorus, as you may have guessed, is my favorite part of the track, by far. That may be because the rest of the parts aren't incredible, but I don't expect them to be, so it's okay. I think what I love so much about this chorus is its vibe. I use this word a lot in this video, but it's extremely epic, which is strengthened even more by Crown of Thorns' closer status. The vocal harmonies are without a doubt the best on the record, maybe even Black Veil Bride's entire discography, but don't quote me on that. The vocals are the most important aspect of the chorus, but I still need to give a lot of credit to the instrumentals. The guitars are the obvious main contender here, spewing out grandiose and catchy melodies that only add to Crown of Thorns' aura, and the drums are great too, as always. Good job, CC. The lyrics, though, are what make it the most powerful for me. The essential lines of "I will walk through hell" and "with my crown of thorns" are an obvious allusion to Jesus Christ in the Bible. Technically, Jesus went to Hades, not hell, but close enough. Even if you're not Christian, you probably know that Jesus is said to be the savior of the world, the person that brings his people out of dark times and dark worlds. The theme of salvation from the verses holds true here. Obviously, it's the same song, but I do like the reference to Jesus because it helps me understand the message of a song a little bit better. I'm going to move away from the chorus for now, but I'll get back to it in a minute, don't worry. While the first verse was more of a Dark Ages, hopeless type atmosphere, the second verse takes more of an introspective spin from the viewpoint of our singer. My favorite lines of this section are, "I'm not the Messiah and I can't heal a broken home, but I'll give you my life and my pride to live through tonight." Those lines are especially relatable for me because it drives home the point that no matter how hard you try, you'll never be able to fix everything. All you can do is try your best, and that's what counts. The bridge of this track is an odd case where it's boring, but it actually makes the whole thing better. The first 40 seconds of this bridge is just guitar, most of which being pretty slow and what most people would consider boring. It may seem just like empty space, but every second of that solo was needed to build the song up to its full potential. When the lyrics come back in, you can clearly tell that something amazing is about to happen, and happen it does. When listening to the full album, front to back, this chorus is by far my favorite 30 seconds of the entire LP. The suspense and build-up within this track alone is impressive, but when you have the build-up from 10 more songs, man, it's heavenly. I like the absence of drums on the first line of the chorus. I guess I'm a sucker for those types of transitions because they always get me. Another great touch is the extra layer of vocals in the second half of this chorus. It just adds that little boost that brings everything to 100%. Now for the outro. I really love the last few seconds of drumming here from CC as Andy sings "With My Crown of Thorns" for some reason. I guess it's like the last hurrah of the song before everything descends into darkness. The last 15 seconds of the track are actually perfect. I know some people would prefer a more energetic ending to an album, but I think that this riff was the perfect way to send it off. Not taking itself too seriously, just nice guitar and the last note fading out is just right. Crown of Thorns is one of the most climactic and well-made closers I think I've ever heard. By itself, it's already incredible, but at the end of an album binge, it may just be one of the best experiences ever. While it's definitely not the best song that closes a Black Veil album, that title goes to "In the End," of course, Crown of Thorns is the best at closing. This is one of the best guitar, drum, and vocal tracks on the record, and I'm super grateful that the band came up with this masterpiece. I just have one more thought before I send you on to number one. Now I know this is not actually correct, but Crown of Thorns to me can function as an alternate ending to this album, the other one being the Shattered God. I talked about this a few times in other videos, but I think that when listening to this record, there are one of two ways you can finish it. You can either stop after the Shattered God or Crown of Thorns. Both are effective closers in their own right, with the Shattered God having that amazing outro. Crown of Thorns is like the bonus stage of a video game boss that you didn't know existed, and that's really cool. I'm going to stop myself here though because this is getting way too long, and I want to talk about my number one. I love Crown of Thorns a lot, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Here it is, at number one, the fan favorite. Faithless emanates the unapologetic, hard-rocking energy that makes Black Veil Bride so special. With incredible musicianship by every member of the band, Faithless truly represents this album in a way that no other track can. I guess I'll just go ahead into talking about each part. So the intro is, in my opinion, the best one on the whole record, with the obvious inspiration from Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls, one of the best songs of the 80s, by the way. The main difference from that is the riff, which is awesome, and the drumming. CC has his best performance of the album here. He really takes it up a notch with the well-timed cymbals and blast beats, which I'll talk more about in the bridge. This intro builds up suspense at a level second only to Shadows Die for Black Veil, and I'd say that suspense was very effective. The verses are surprisingly not my favorites. I think that title has to go to Sons of Night. Lyrically, however, they are very nice. I'm not going to go as deep into the lyrics as I did with Crown of Thorns, but in a nutshell, the first verse seems to be talking about how, most likely religious people, try to present something as good or holy, but that thing is actually evil. They focus on the aspects of the religion that make them look good to other people, therefore sacrificing the practices that God actually asks of them. When I hear this, I'm reminded of the Pharisees from the Bible. many of whom built up a strong and holy image but were actually doing many things against God's teachings. The riff in the verse is really nice as always, and CC keeps the energy going nicely. The harmonies are a bit at certain points, but it's not really an issue. The pre-chorus suffers from that too, but again, not a big deal. The chorus is one of the best parts of the song. I mean, obviously it has to be. One of my favorite Black Veil choruses lyrically. It talks about not wanting to pray to a god and instead finding the hope and drive inside yourself. The titular line, "I will never be the faithless one," is very beautiful to me. Never back down, never what type beat. The instrumentals slowed down a bit to leave more room for the vocals, which are the focus of this section. The guitars take on more of a hopeful sound to match the lyrics, and CC slams down on these cymbals the whole time. There are more O's in the post-chorus as well. This album seems to have a lot of those. I'm going to skip ahead to the bridge because nothing interesting really happens until then. The bridge is purely instrumental. It consists of a 50-second guitar solo, which is in my opinion the best stretch of time on the record, except for the last chorus of Crown of Thorns at the end of an album binge. I don't know if you can really call this a solo, but if you want to be picky, there is an actual guitar solo at the end. I do like the normal solo part of the bridge. It's one of the best on the album despite being only 15 seconds long. The section I'm most interested in though is the first 35 seconds of the bridge. Right after the second chorus ends, the guitars shift into a darker tone to continue building suspense. The drums speed up to prepare the listener for this menacing descent into madness. The next 25 seconds or so are the climax of the song. I love the metalcore-esque guitars and drums, and it just hits really hard. It gives me the feeling of that video of people headbanging over the crowd barriers at a metal concert, if you know what I'm talking about. This part is always super immersive and fun. The dark spin on the sound is extremely well done, especially when the guitars are in full blast, and I'm glad it's included in the album. The bridge honestly carries Faithless into the number 1 spot. Without it, this song would land at number 2, maybe even 3. The last chorus is basically just a slightly better version of the previous two because of build-up and all that. What I care about more than that, though, is the outro. Another one of the best outros on the record, in my opinion. A lot of little things come together to make it awesome. I guess I'll just start with the last post-chorus, namely the section with the O's. The guitar in the background of the O's is really nice. I like the different drumming here, and these little vocal accents are a good touch as well. Now onto the actual outro. I absolutely love the return to the breakdown in the outro. It's just so cool. This was genius. The last few seconds are kind of like bleeders in that you keep thinking the song's gonna end, but it just keeps going for a while. I don't generally love that style of ending, but it's executed very well here, I have to say. Alright, I've done enough yapping. I just need to say, Faithless is an absolute masterpiece of a track. It gives this album a lot of its personality, and I don't think BVB 4 would have been the same without it. Amazing, amazing song. Well, that was my ranking of the songs from Black Veil Bride's self-titled album. I started this thing in my last video where I go off script for a couple minutes and just ramble about the album. I'm going to start doing that in most of my videos now, so I'm going to hand this over to off-script me. So I know a lot of people don't really like this album as much as the band's other ones. Some people even place it at last, which, I mean, I can kind of understand. It definitely has the least personality out of every Black Veil record, but the sound, the music itself, and the lyrics are on the upper half of it, at least. I would say this is probably the record that got me, like, fully into Black Veil. I knew Wretched and Divine, and that's what introduced me, but this was the second one I listened to, and it was the one to, like, solidify me into the community, because I knew they were actually, like, 2 good albums. But yeah, my opinions have shifted a lot over time on this one. Not as much as, like, some other albums I've listened to, but definitely probably the most out of Black Veil's albums. There's a lot of weird, like, taste-based things that I don't love, and some that I do love that a lot of people would disagree with, which I understand. It's your opinion. But I hope you're not too mad at me for saying this is, like, on the upper half of Black Veil Bride's discography. It definitely has the least personality compared to the other ones, but that most self-titled albums do, and I don't think it's as big of an issue as a lot of people think it is, at least in my opinion. I think what really matters is the sound, and the expectation of another Wretched and Divine was kind of unreasonable at the time. I know it would be great to have another, like, big, grandiose, like, opera story, rock opera thing again, but you can only ask so much. Like, I think it was actually a good move to not do another huge album like Wretched and Divine. I think this was a good move to kind of let the band try some new stuff, even return to some old stuff at times, and especially considering how they were mentally at the time, like with all the alcohol and drugs and just general discord within the band. I think this was a good move to kind of go off grid a little bit more and not try to make a big thing like Wretched Divine. A lot of great songs, of course. Faithless, Crown of Thorns, Heart of Fire, all amazing. Stolen Omen, honorable mention. I won't yap anymore. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel for future rock music related content. My upload schedule is a bit wonky at the moment because I just started school and a new job, but hopefully I'll be able to get videos out every 2 to 3 weeks. This video is the 4th in a series of 9 Black Veil Bride related videos on my channel, so if you like this one, be sure to check out the previous installments as well as look out for future ones. That'll be all from me though. Thank you so much for watching and have a nice day, guys.